Okay, good morning, everybody. We are into our first week of November here. It is November 1st, 2021, and we're running a little bit late this morning, so we're going to jump right into our pre-market analysis for the S&P 500 futures market. Go ahead and jump up here, and we'll take a look at our quarterly chart to start things off here. And again, as usual, looking very strong with no signs of exhaustion. Remember that this candle will close at the end of this month now, so we'll go ahead and continue to monitor that as the month goes on. On our new monthly candle here, obviously can't really say much until this starts to really get going. But what I can say is all of these potential bearish signals we were seeing off of highs could potentially be just kind of a false signal, because remember, we have to wait for the right hand side of the chart to develop here on the RVI, and as it develops the picture will get clearer. And when we have these straight lines, like I say every week, when we have a straight line, I typically am not looking to compare that until we start to see something else develop. And what we'd like to see here is kind of this pullback, and now this launch up in RVI to come up, and ideally, break that previous high that we made back on the bar for August. That way, what we would have is kind of like this pullback here and this push to new highs up on price. So that's what we'd like to see happen. Right now, I don't really see anything that's helping us out from a divergence perspective, because this now is going to develop, and like I said, we'd like to see it. Now, if it closes down here and we have a continued straight line down, and we continue to push higher, then yes, maybe there will be something. But right now, we're just going to have to watch. We did see potential bearish things setting up here, but I think that the story is changing. Now, on this bar, this previous monthly bar, remember, we emphasized the fact that this was a bullish engulfing monthly bar, which is a bullish omen. And I think that was making us a little bit confused last week, because we had a very bullish argument from a candlestick perspective on this monthly bar that was about to close, but we did see an argument for that bearish divergence that was kind of setting up as well. It made it a little bit harder to interpret what the charts were saying, but now it just looks like we got this little healthy pullback, and now we're going to continue to push higher. And again, we'd like to see this RVI push, because if the RVI comes up and does not break above 90, and then the next monthly bar opens and we actually get a turn, now we'll have a lower high on RVI like that, and a higher high on RVI on price, and then we could actually make a bearish argument. But we have to wait for that type of scenario to show for us to have that. So we're just going to have to continue to watch and see what happens here. So I would say from our quarterly and our monthly perspective, really no signs of exhaustion as they continue to push. When we go to our weekly, this is where we still have that bearish argument that we talked about last week. So remember, we said right here on the RVI, if the next candle opens and RVI pushes down like you see right here, maybe we would have an actual peak here, and then we could actually draw this divergence in across the highs, and we would have higher highs on price, lower highs on RVI, and we could make the argument for a bearish divergence. However, with this new candle now opening as of yesterday's Globex, we are getting just continuation to the upside on the RVI, which is a good thing, because remember I said that ideally what we want to see here is this push up, and then eventually come up to break the highs we made back here at the beginning of September, and that would ensure that there is no bearish divergence up top. But if we do get to a point where rather than seeing this push higher, we see this kind of come up, and then all of a sudden on the next weekly candle that opens, this turns and actually comes down, and we do get that peak. Now we have, again, just like we said on the other time frame, an actual peak from peak to peak, lower peak, and then for price, lower high to higher high, and then we can make that argument. So again, we're going to have to watch, and that's why these high time frames are very hard to kind of use for any type of actionable trade, because it takes so much time for that next candle to open and then get some type of confirmation that there actually is a valid signal. So right now, again, we can do the same thing. We can draw a divergence off the current high because of where the RVI is. But remember that if this continues to follow through on RVI and we continue to get this straight line, this will be another false signal. So unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And for now, we're going to have to monitor this and see. But for right now, that's a bearish divergence unless this continues to advance higher. All right, so we got our high time frames out of the way. Let's go down, or I'm sorry, our ultra high time frames. Let's go down to our high time frames now. We got our daily, and remember, going into Friday's market, we saw, this is all we saw going into Friday's market. We saw a double top in price and the lower high on RVI, and we said this was the first time since the beginning of October that we had any type of bearish argument on the daily. Now there was the bearish argument, but then look what happened. The next bar opened and we continued to push higher on RVI. So we continue to have this straight line. So this is just a great example, all these ultra high time frames and now this daily, of the problem with the high time frames. And it is, you have to wait for the next bar to form and see if you're actually going to get the apex in price to actually form the divergence. And if it doesn't, then you just have to kind of reconsider the situation. So right now we still have, unfortunately, there's no bearish divergence. The RVI is a straight line up and the price continues to push higher. Now at some point, if we do get an actual top there and we actually get a peak there to compare to the previous peak, then we can actually go in and draw that bearish divergence. And that could be today. So today's candle could end up, now right here we could close, and then tomorrow's candle could end up coming down like this on RVI, and then yes, we would have this argument for bearish divergence off whatever high that we make up here. But right now we're gonna have to wait. We can make an argument, right, that there is that signal right now of bearishness off that high, but we need the next candle to close and we need the peak to actually have something to hang our hat on. So although we kind of see this on the weekly and on the daily, we're seeing this in the context of a very strong bullish push. So rather than putting a lot of faith in this, I would rather wait for some type of confirmation. For instance, the next candle to open and then close and give us that actual peak before I hang my hat on anything up here. So we'll just kind of watch this. Right now there's the beginning of what could be an argument, but we'll have to, again, it's going to take, on the higher time frames, it's going to take a longer time period to actually get confirmation of what we're seeing, or for this to actually to see if it's actually going to follow through for anything. So higher time frames are getting a little more difficult to read there. Right now on the 4 hour, it's again very similar, and if you just look back here for, it's probably over 2 weeks, it's been little inch higher, shallow pullback, little inch higher, shallow pullback, little inch higher, shallow pullback, a little bit bigger of an inch higher, shallow pullback. That's literally all the market's been doing here. So again, you're probably going to be like, what the hell is this guy talking about? He just says the same thing every day. It looks bullish off the low, it looks bearish off the high. I could say that, but that's just the way it is right now. Until we start getting some type of pullback or anything like that, this is what we're dealing with. So this morning, 4 hour, really nice bullish divergence off the previous daily low, really nice bearish divergence off the overnight high. So you're not going to see it much different here on the 60-minute bullish off the previous daily low, bearish off the overnight high, and we also have a little bit of a bullish argument off the overnight low on this 60-minute. Let's go take a look at the intermediate time frames. Again, I don't think that the picture is going to change. Just go ahead and bring up the 30-minute real quick here. Again, nice bullish divergence. We got like a double bottom last week on Friday. Really nice bullish divergence off both tests. Bullish off the pullback on Friday, and then again a nice bullish divergence off the overnight low, but then off the highs, really clear bearish divergence. So not really helping the picture anymore, just confirming what we're seeing. And then the same thing on the 10 minutes. So this morning, essentially, we're kind of expecting a continuation, because if we pretty much, with trading, everything works until it doesn't work, right? And so this morning, if we just look to the recent past for the last 2.5 weeks, it was a buy the pullback morning, right? So you pretty much had to wait for a pullback, get long, and then there was an expected continuation to break the previous highs that we made and inch up to a higher high. So this morning, it's no different. There are not enough clues off of the highs right now to say that we've got that reversal just yet. Well, I should rephrase that. We have the clues there, but every time we get a pullback, the bulls jump in. So let me just clarify what we're seeing here. For the last week or two, we've had a strong enough bearish argument off the highs to expect some type of larger correction in the market. However, every time the bears try to pull the market back, the bulls jump right back in and continue to push higher. And because that has been the case every morning for 10, maybe even 15 mornings now, we're just going to go ahead and have to do the same thing this morning. We should expect some type of bounce off of a pullback for a continuation to break the highs and push to new all-time highs. However, because there are enough time frames all agreeing on the bearish case off the highs, at some point this sucker's going to pull back and get some type of pretty decent sell-off. We've pushed here like 300 points in a matter of 1 month. And remember that typically in the market, what we see is kind of this stair step up, nice and methodical, and maybe it comes a little bit lower, then it comes back and it starts going, and it's this methodical push up like this, and then all of a sudden, in one day, it gives it all back, just like that. So at some point, that's going to happen. The question is, when? And it could be that everything really starts lining up again on those high time frames like we're seeing, and then some type of news happens, and that pullback that was typically just for 20 points turns into a 250 point sell-off in a matter of one morning or one afternoon. So for now, again, same situation as it has been for over 2 weeks now. Pretty much looking for longs off pullbacks, unless there is some type of violent bearish sell-off here. So I will we'll go over to our members section now and start looking for some relevant levels to play this morning. And for those out there in YouTube land, have a great rest of your day, and we will see you here tomorrow.